The Halifax real estate market. What can I say? On one hand, it's a hot market, and on the other hand, it's a hesitant one. Despite the fact that home prices have increased since 2024 and listing inventory has remained steady, we're seeing fewer homes sell for over the asking price, and buyers are pickier than ever. If you're thinking about making a move, whether it's buying or selling by the end of 2025, understanding the gap in expectations between the buyer and seller is the key to your success. In this video, I'm going to dive into the stats from the first 4 months of 2025 and make sure you stick around until the end because I'm going to talk about some trends that I'm seeing in the market on the ground level when I'm out there working with my buyer and seller clients. But just before I get into it, if you're new here, my name is Andrew Stevens. I've been a realtor for over 10 years. And if you want to be educated about the Halifax real estate market, then hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And if you're thinking about making a move in the HRM and you'd like to get in touch with me, you can reach out to me anytime in the Calendly link below. So I'm going to dive right into the numbers and I'm going to burn through these. And then, like I said, I'm going to discuss some trends that we've been seeing on the ground level with our buyer and seller clients so far in 2025. So far this year, we've seen just under 1,500 home sales in the HRM, and that's up 1.8% from this time last year. Now, in terms of these almost 1,500 home sales in the HRM, the average sale price of these homes is sitting just over $597,000, which is up 4.3% from this time last year. Now, in terms of the listing inventory and what type of a market that we're in, we are still in a seller's market, technically sitting at about 2.1 months of listing inventory, and that's up from about 1.8 months of listing inventory through the same time period last year in 2024. Now, if I look at the month of April specifically, just the month of April from 2025 to 2024, it is very, very similar. In April of 2024, we saw 512 sales versus 510 sales this year in 2025. And in terms of the price of these sales, last year we were sitting at about $599,000 as an average sale price in April. And this year in 2025, we were sitting at about $602,000 for an average sale price. Now, in terms of competing offer situations, so multiple offers, bidding wars in the HRM. Here's what we've been seeing in April over the last 3 years, and it has been changing year over year since 2023. So in 2023, 48% of the homes in April sold for over the asking price. That dropped 3% to 45% of homes sold over the asking price last year in 2024. And now looking at this year in 2025 in April, we saw only 39% of the homes sell for over the asking price. So we are seeing less homes sell for over the asking price. But again, I'm going to dive into this here a little bit more when I look at the trends. So the question is, what are we seeing on the ground level when we're working with our buyer and seller clients? Well, first off, to me, something I'm noticing, and some of these are just things I'm noticing kind of in my everyday, and some of them are going to be backed by stats. So first off, one thing I'm seeing is that buyers are a little bit more hesitant. There's a lot of reasons for this. I think consumer confidence is an interesting thing to look at right now based on all the uncertainty politically and economically. And maybe now that our election is over and the trade wars seem to be settling a little bit, even though there's still a lot of uncertainty out there, I think this is affecting the consumer confidence. So buyers seem to be a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more picky than ever, especially in those higher sale prices. And now, speaking of sale prices, we really have the tale of two markets here in Halifax. We have sort of the lower price ranges, which I'm going to say for the sake of this video is anywhere up to about $550,000. And then we have the higher price ranges, anything, let's say, once we get up over $750,000. And depending on what you're trying to do, whether you're buying or selling, that looks very different depending on the price point that you're operating in. For example, in terms of back to the competing offer situations that we talked about, almost half the homes in HRM in the month of April that were listed under $500,000 sold for over the asking price. So it's about 11% more in terms of under 500 versus the whole market as a whole. So in the lower price ranges, we're still seeing a lot of competing offers, a lot of, multiple offer situations, bidding wars, whatever you want to call them. It is very difficult to get a house in that price range because there's a lot of demand in that price range versus the supply that we currently have. When you're looking at the higher price ranges, homes seem to sit on the market a little bit longer. Buyers are a lot pickier. They're looking at more and more homes before they're choosing which one to write an offer on. So it really is the tale of two markets. In this upper price range, it's much more of a buyer's market once you're over about $750,000. And in the under $550,000 range, it's definitely a seller's market. Pretty much every time I'm writing an offer on that type of a home that's under 550, or any time that I'm listing a home that's under 550, we're seeing, anywhere from 15, 20, 25, or even as many as 35 or 40 showings. And oftentimes we're getting multiple offers, whether it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or in some cases even 10 or more offers. So that price range is very, very competitive. Something else that I'm noticing is just a straight up gap between the expectations of a seller and a buyer. So like I said, buyers are being a little bit more picky, and sellers are oftentimes overpricing their homes, especially in those higher price ranges. So somewhere along the line in 2020, 2021, and 2022, when the market was off the rails, we sort of got away from what is typical and what those expectations should look like if you're buying or selling a property. And now all of a sudden, regardless of the price point, regardless of the product, regardless of the neighborhood, sellers seem to have the expectation that they're going to get top dollar for their property, whether or not the market sales in the area actually support that or not. And I think that it's the expectations are a little bit out of whack based on those few really heavy years we had during COVID when things were absolutely off the rails. And the truth is, the market is just not there anymore. For context, when I started selling real estate in 2014, we had over 11 months of listing inventory. And because of this, homes sat on the market for an average of 120 days. Well, right now, that average is about 39 days, but people are really frustrated if you list their home and it's not selling within a week or two. So from my perspective as an agent, it's really important for me to make sure that whoever I'm working with in terms of a buyer or a seller, regardless of price range, their expectations are in line with reality and what we are expecting to see throughout the process of them buying or selling a home. But that gap in expectations between the buyer and seller almost has it in a bit of a standoff right now. There's a lot of listings that have been sitting on the market for quite some time. Now, for reference, right now in the HRM, we have about 1,080 listings. Only 258 of them have been on the market for under 2 weeks. But if I look at how many listings have been on the market for over 60 days, it's 35% of the total listings, and almost 60% of the total listings have been on the market for over 30 days. So although we have more inventory and it's creeping up there towards kind of a balanced market, there's a lot of inventory sitting out there that is a little bit stale. They're homes that have been on the market for quite some time. Maybe they were on back in the fall of 2024 and didn't sell, and now they're back on in 2025. And a lot of times there's not really the proper pricing adjustments made to these listings. Oftentimes they're just sitting there, hoping for a unicorn buyer who's going to come along and overpay. But we're just not really seeing that in our market right now. Now, something else I'm noticing from my perspective is that if we had a lot more listings in those affordable price ranges, we'd have a lot more sales in the HRM as a general statement. Right now in the HRM, we have almost the same number of listings that are over $1 million as the amount of listings that we have at the $500,000 range and below. So right now, out of those total listings, 1,080 in total in HRM, we have 21% of them are under $500,000 and 15% of them are over $1 million. So that just kind of shows you, just for context, why a lot of these homes are sitting, because we don't have that demand in the $1 million range that we do in the under $500,000 range, obviously here in Halifax. So it's just, we have more on the market, but it's not the right types of listings that we actually need based on what the real buyer demand is in Halifax. So what can you expect if you're looking to buy or sell a home in 2025 in the HRM? Well, like I said, it really depends. It's the tale of two markets, and it really depends on what price point you're in, what neighborhood you're in, and what type of product that you're looking to buy or sell. But generally speaking, the biggest thing here, the biggest takeaway from this video is that you need to make sure your expectations are in line with the reality of the market and what is actually happening. And that's my job as a realtor, to help provide that for you if we're working together. So like I said, if you're curious about working together, you can reach out to me anytime in the Calendly link below. And if you're currently buying or trying to sell a home, or if you've done so far in 2025, I would love to hear about your experience in the comments below in terms of what you dealt with, and if it's sort of mirroring what I'm talking about in this video, or if you have something to add to the conversation. I would love to get some dialogue started down there. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support, and have a great day.